will undertake your direct testimony.
Can you first introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm James Heath Dykes.
How are you currently employed?
I work for the Perry Police Department.
How long have you worked for the Perry Police Department?
29 years and 6 months.
What is your current job assignment with the Perry Police Department?
I run the Criminal Investigative Division.
And I'm going to take you back to 2005. Did you know someone by the name of Tara Grinstead?
I did.
And how do you know Tara Grinstead?
We grew up together in the same town, Hawkinsville.
Were you same age?
She's 4.5, 5 years younger than I am.
After high school, did you ever see Tara again?
I did.
And when was it that you first got to know Tara after high school?
When I was at Georgia Southern, I talked to her several times during that time.
Okay. Was there ever an occasion in which your relationship with her went beyond friend?
Yes.
And when did that occur?
2005, 2004.
How long before she went missing do you believe that your relationship had escalated?
How many months?
Months, years, whatever it is.
It's around 8 months, I think.
Now, prior to that, had you been in contact with her on a regular basis before the relationship became more than friends?
Excuse me?
Were you in contact on a regular basis prior to those 8 months before?
Oh, yes, yes.
And go ahead and ask you, were you married in 2005 when your relationship turned to a sexual nature?
Yes.
During that time period, when you were involved in a romantic relationship with Miss Grinstead, how often would you see her?
Maybe twice a month. It was.
How often did you speak with her?
We spoke daily.
And in 2005, what different phones would you have had access to?
I had a cell phone.
Would that have been a personal cell phone or a work phone, or do you recall?
Yes, a cell phone. It's a work.
Work cell phone.
Right.
Do you recall if you had a personal cell phone?
I did not back then.
Did you have a house phone at the time?
I did.
And I know we're talking about a number of years ago, but do you recall what your house phone would have been at the time? The number?
478-988-3026.
Okay. Very good. What about your cell phone back then? Do you recall what that number would have been? If you don't, it's okay.
I don't. I think it's a 338 number. I think, but I might be wrong.
And then what about your office? Would you have had a office phone?
I do.
And again, what department was that you worked for?
Perry Police Department, Investigative Division.
Do you know what the number would have been there?
My direct line is 988-2822.
Speak up just a little bit, please.
My direct line is 988-2822.
And what would have been the area code for that?
478.
Did you ever communicate with Tara on your cell phone?
Yes.
Do you recall if you ever spoke or called her from your house phone?
Yes.
And then what about the number at your work? Do you recall if you ever spoke with her or called her from that number?
Yes.
Now, I know it's been a long time, but do you recall how long it had been since you saw Tara prior to her going missing?
It was the Wednesday, the 19th of October.
And do you recall when it was that she went missing?
Well, it had to have been Saturday night sometime, which would have been the 22nd.
Okay. Now, I want to direct your attention back to that Saturday. Did you speak with her on that date?
I did.
How many times did you speak with her?
I know of 2.
And was that on your phone, text, and what way did you speak with her?
Cell phone.
Cell phone. Did Tara have a cell phone?
Yes.
Did Tara have a house phone?
Yes,
At the time, did you have both of those numbers as well?
I did.
Was it unusual that you might communicate with her on both of those numbers?
Yes.
It was unusual or it was not?
It's not unusual. No, it's not unusual.
Did there come a time in which you were unable to get in touch with Tara?
Yes.
And what was the day of the week, at least, that occurred?
That was Sunday morning.
When you had last spoken with Tara, had you had plans at that point to see her?
We had talked about it the night prior,
Okay.
and I said if I could work it out, I would try to see her Sunday.
And when you say you would try to see her Sunday, was there a plan for where that would occur, that meeting would occur?
Well, I would just have called her and we'd have met up.
So would it have taken place at her house, your house, somewhere else?
Probably her house.
Her house. How far was the drive from your residence to her house back then?
Hour 25 minutes.
And what about from your work to her house?
About the same.
So tell us what you were doing Sunday morning and how that day played out, please.
When I got up Sunday morning, actually, I went deer hunting with a couple of friends. Got back to the house. My kids had a fall festival at their school.
Yes, sir.
And we went to the Centerville Elementary School where we went to fall festival. After we left there, we grabbed something to eat, I think at Larry's Subs. From there, I was in contact with a guy I was supposed to go deer hunting with that afternoon, and told him that I was going to be hunting in Hawkinsville that afternoon, and basically went by a friend of mine's house in Hawkinsville, Mr. Cootie, and visited with him up till the time I went deer hunting.
Okay. During this time period, did you attempt to reach Tara?
Several times.
Did she ever answer?
Never.
When she did not answer, what did you do, if anything?
I left a message on her house phone.
Into Saturday night, Sunday, did you ever speak with Tara's mother, Faye Grinstead?
I did.
How did you know Miss Faye?
She worked for my dad and grew up in just Hawkinsville's small like this town. Everybody knows everybody.
Okay. Now, to your knowledge, did Miss Faye know about your relationship with Tara?
I'm not 100% sure she knew the extent of it. She knew we were really close and real good friends.
Okay. Do you recall if you spoke with Miss Faye on Saturday?
No, I didn't speak. I don't remember speaking to her, I'm sorry.
What about on Sunday?
Yes.
Now, Saturday evening, specifically, I think I may have asked you this, but I want to be clear. Were you and Tara ever able to actually speak on the phone? Saturday night.
Saturday night, yes.
Okay. And then on Sunday, do you recall when it is that you would have spoken with Miss Faye?
It was late into the evening. She called me.
Okay. And after speaking with Miss Faye, did you do anything?
Yes, I decided to go down to Tara's house to see if I could find her.
At this point, would you say you had left a number of messages for Tara?
Oh yeah, a bunch.
Was it usual that she would not call you back or respond to your messages?
No.
Why did you drive to Tara's residence that night?
Because I was worried about something was wrong. I just knew it wasn't like her character to not respond, not answer, just completely go.
When you spoke with her on Saturday, I apologize, did I interrupt you?
No, ma'am.
When you spoke with her on Saturday, what was her demeanor?
She was kind of down. She was, I don't know, kind of sad. And I tried to, talk to her and cheer her up.
Yes.
Try to be funny with her. And basically, when we hung up the phone, about 5 or 6 seconds later, after we hung up, I called her right back, and she answered the phone, and she seemed to be in a better mood then, and so.
Did you have any reason to think that, did y'all have a fight or an argument on Saturday?
No.
When you went to Tara's house, what did you do, if anything, on Saturday?
I pulled up in the driveway, and it was late, probably around 12 a.m. I called Miss Faye and told her I was there, and that I went to the front door, knocked on the door several times, walked around. The dog was barking.
Yes, sir.
She had a dog named Dolly. It was barking. I walked around to the fence and patted it, calmed down. And I walked back over to the carport where a car was, and I put my hand on top of the car to see if it was warm, and it was cold.
Yes, sir.
I tapped on the window up there, trying to see if, put my knuckles and hit the window to see if, somebody would hear me.
Which window would that have been?
I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's the front one. That I could see some ambient light in there, like a computer screen.
Yes, sir.
Was lit up, like a screensaver was lit up, and I could see the ambient light in there, but that's all you could see. It was very dim.
Yes, sir.
And I just banged on it, trying to get somebody to come to the door. And I called Miss Faye. At that point, I called Miss Faye after exhausting all attempts to try to, make contact with her.
Yes,
and I asked her what she wanted me to do. She had a neighbor by the name of, she called him Mr. Joe. I don't know his last name, Porte or something. Anyway, I asked Miss Faye at that point, "Do you want me to go over to Mr. Joe's house and see if he knows anything, if he's heard from her?" And she told me no, it was too late, that she would contact Mr. Joe in the morning and have her check on Tara.
When you were at Tara's house outside, do you recall if you actually called her home phone as well, trying to get her to answer?
I'm sure I did. And I left a business card. I took my business card out of my car, and I put a note on the back of it, and I stuck it on the door, put it in the wedge to the door.
Sure.
I'm going to show you first what's been marked as States Exhibit 40 and ask you if you recognize that.
I do.
How do you recognize States 40?
That's the house that Tara Grinstead lived in.
And is that a true and accurate depiction of what that residence would have looked like back in October of 2005?
It is.
Now I'm going to show you States Exhibit 41 and ask you, do you recognize the area depicted in States 41?
I do.
And what do you recognize that area to be?
The little walkway going up to the...
Okay. I know I'm close to you, so you're talking low, but I need you to talk a little bit louder for me. What is that?
The little walkway going up to the front door.
Okay. Now, specifically, the item that I'm pointing to in States 41, do you ever recall seeing that item?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're having mic problems all day today.
All right. No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. And then I'm going to show you a close-up of that, States 42, and again, ask you that question. Do you ever recall seeing that specific item before, States 42?
I do not.
As it relates to States 41, other than the item that I've just pointed to, does that appear to be a true and accurate depiction of what her yard would have looked like back in October of 2005?
It does.
All right, this time I would tender in evidence States Exhibits 40 and 41.
Any objection of board aye? Thank you, Mr. Merchant. 40 and 41 are admitted without objection.
And then I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 43, and you can take that out if you need to, take a look at it, but can you tell me if you recognize what's in State's 43?
That's my business card.
And that particular business card, is there any writing on it?
It is.
And whose writing was that?
It's mine.
Okay. Does that appear to be the business card that you left in Tara's door back in October of 2005, the evening you were unable to reach her?
It is.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I would tender in evidence State's Exhibit 43.
Clerk and good. That's submitted without objection. Thank you.
Can I call this case to the jury?
That'll be fine. Ms. Watkins, if you'll help us with our screen. Thank you. I'm going to put it on there.
I'm going to try this.
All right. Good. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, y'all seen that image on your screen? Thank you.
Okay. Do you see that image as well, sir?
I do.
Okay. Let me see if I can. For some reason, it's crooked. Can you tell the jury what we're looking at there?
That's Tara Grinstead's house.
And again, here, the vehicle that we see, do you recognize that vehicle?
I do.
Whose vehicle was that?
Tara Grinstead.
And had you specifically seen Tara driving that vehicle before?
Yes.
Now, the window that you said, or excuse me, the door that you said you knocked on that evening, do we see that door in this picture?
We do.
Would that be this door that's it's open in the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then, do you recall, I think you said you went over in the back to see Dolly, the dog. Which way would you have gone to see Dolly?
Looking at the picture to the left on the other side of the car.
So this way?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, do you know which side of the residence Tara's bedroom was on?
Would be on the right side.
So over here?
Correct.
These windows that we see here, and again, I know it's been a while, but do you recall what room those windows went to?
I think it's her bedroom.
Okay. And do you know if there were any windows on the other side of the house as well? There weren't, or you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Now, you talked about knocking on some windows that evening. Do you see the window that you would have knocked on that evening in this particular picture?
I believe it's the front one for the far left. The three windows you see in a row on the far left.
Here?
Correct. That one that you got your finger on.
Sorry, it's upside down for me, so that
Okay.
My left and right are different. Okay, so these windows right here?
Yes, ma'am.
And what room do you believe those go into in the house?
That's the den area.
Okay. Do you recall if you walked around, in addition to walking in the back to see Dolly, do you recall if you walked around anywhere else in the residence?
In the carport there.
Okay. Now, do you know if there was another entrance to the residence in the carport here?
There was.
Did you ever know Tara to use that residence? That entrance?
I did.
And do you recall if it was actually blocked off on the inside or not?
I think it was. I never went in that area, but I think it was like maybe a laundry room or something was in that area. But there, I did knock on that door as well.
Now, I'm going to show you what's been marked as
We were just looking at?
Exhibit 40.
All right, thank you.
Exhibit 41, and again, we indicated when we were talking earlier, this particular item that I'm pointing at, have you ever seen that item before, the one that's exhibited in States 41?
I have not.
Okay. However, this area, what is that depicting?
Like a little walkway going up to her front door.
Okay. Specifically, these steps, would they have approached or gone away from the front door?
I think they're going out towards the driveway, I believe is how it went.
Okay. And in the opposite direction, would they have gone toward the door?
Correct.
Okay. When you approached the door that evening, this particular item that we see in the straw, would that have been in front of you or behind you?
Behind me.
Okay. And What time of day or night was it that you were out there?
12 midnight.
Okay. Did you have a flashlight out?
No.
Did you, I know we're talking about days where cell phones probably didn't have lights on them, but did you ever recall using any light to be able to see the yard that evening?
No, I just...
Were you looking for anything specifically in the yard that night?
I just focused mainly on the house and knocking on the door and seeing somebody's home.
Do you have any way of telling this jury whether this item in States 41 was there the night that you were at her house? Do you have any way of knowing if it was or was not there?
I don't have any way.
Do you have any way of knowing?
I would rule that again.
No.
You don't have any way of knowing? Okay.
I don't know if it was there or not.
And then State's Exhibit.
I'm good. Thank you.
This is exhibit number 43. Again, can you tell the jury what they're looking at? Exhibit number 43.
That's my business card
Okay.
with my cell phone number on it.
And where did you leave this particular business card?
In the door, front door.
Did Tara have your cell phone number?
She did.
Then why would you have left your cell phone number on there?
I don't know.
As law enforcement, when you're leaving your card in somebody's door, do you generally leave your cell phone number on it?
I do, and what I'm thinking is probably already, I probably pre-wrote it on there on my business cards because I do, in my job, I do what is called neighborhood canvasses, and I go out and I leave my cards on people's doors. So I probably just wrote it on there, and it was just one of my cards that had my number written on it.
Okay. And I know earlier you weren't positive about what your cell phone number was back in 2005, but looking at this particular number, with that, you said that would have been your cell phone number at the time?
That's it.
I'm going to do this portion. Okay. Have you ever had an occasion to hear the messages that you left on Tara's home phone back in October 2005?
I have.
Shall I take the council marking a state exhibit 200? I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 200 and ask you if you recognize that.
I do. It's the CD with the phone messages, and I reviewed it on 8/2/2021 in your office in tip
Now, how do you know that specific CD is the one that you reviewed in my office?
because I initialed it.
And having had a chance to listen to that recording, do you recall if other persons had left messages on the on her home phone as well?
I think there was a few messages from other people.
Okay. What about Faye Grinstead? Did you know her voice?
I do.
Okay. And if you were to hear Miss Faye Grinstead's voice, would you know it?
Yes.
Do you recall whether or not Miss Faye's voice is on these recordings leaving messages for her daughter?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would tender an evidence states exhibit 20.
Any objection, Mr. Murphy?
Okay.
No objection. That's a,
Of course, the record knows it contains multiple statements. Something we need to clarify.
all right, you don't object to, I'm assuming Mr. Dykes or Miss Faye Grinstead's messages. Is that correct?
And Your
Any further?
Honor, as you can tell, I skipped to number 200. I wasn't going to play it with him, and I decided I would. I'm only going to play a portion of it now. The remainder will be played with the investigators who recorded it.
All right. You intend to play his messages now. Is that
Some of his
correct?
messages, not all of them.
Okay.
I just want him to be able to identify if that's his voice, Judge.
I'll be fine.
While she's getting that ready for me, did you know a gentleman by the name of Jim Hickey?
I did.
Okay. How did you know Mr. Hickey?
I don't personally know him. I just knew him of Tara mentioning him.
You have one new message and 28 old messages. Monday, 10:19 a.m.
Hey, listen.
And Judge, I'm going to fast forward. This is kind of, it'll make sense later, but I'm going to fast forward through that. Just get started over.
Friday, 5:47 p.m.
Hey, Sarah, this is Tanya Vickers.
Sunday, 6:23 p.m. Sunday, 6:26 p.m. Okay, you're there. Your next page is going to make it. You're okay. It's put your phone in your shot. Okay.
Apologies. Obviously, with the feedback we're having today, it's very difficult to hear, but were you able to hear the voice on that audio?
Sound like yes,
Okay. And did you recognize that voice?
it's my voice.
And you were about to say it sounds like something. Are you able to make out what you were saying in that?
I think you could at least page me.
Okay. What did you mean by that?
Page me with like a pager back in
So for those who may not know what a pager is, and I'm sure can you explain what that is?
back before cell phones and were an item. We had pagers and we were on call, and you could page the number and it'd beep. Basically, it just looked a little square pager.
Okay.
It just-
And did you have a pager back then?
I did.
Did Tara have your pager number?
She did.
Okay, I'm gonna restart it, and that's at 5:38. Sorry.
Sunday, 7:34 p.m. Okay, yeah, please do it, Paul. Try to get word about you now. Okay, please let me know you're all right. If you're there. I'd like you to not call all day. Will you let me hear from you?
The person that we just heard, did you recognize that voice?
I did.
And who did you recognize that person to be?
It's me.
And were you able to make out what you were saying? That was a little more audible.
I just was pleading with her to call me and let me know she's okay.
I am skipping forward. It's starting at 15:08.
getting home, heard you, don't answer the phone, I went on down to you. Pick up. Please call. Sunday, 10:11 p.m. It's me.
I'm going to pause it there at 15:51. Again, whose voice was that we just heard on the message?
It was mine.
And we're able to hear a sound, actually two sounds in that. Were you able to hear two sounds that were not your voice?
Yes.
Okay. What was the first sound, or what did you hear that stood out to you?
Me knocking on the door.
Okay. And then what else did you hear?
Dog barking.
Would that, whose dog would that have been?
Tara's.
At this point then, would you have been at your house?
Yes.
I'm going to restart that at 15:51.
Sunday, 11:44 p.m. That goes all the way down here, 12 o'clock at night. And you still on into the different stuff up here. That's very considered community. Monday, 12:04 a.m. Monday, 12:27 a.m.
Get this message, keep please call me back. Trying to call you all afternoon and all night, and I haven't been able to connect, so I'm worried. Please give me a call sometime.
The message we just heard from 12:27 a.m., do you recognize that voice?
I do.
And who do you recognize that voice to be?
Miss Faye Grinstead.
Restarting.
Monday, 12:28 a.m. Hey, Karis. Worried about you. I called your mom now. She said she can't get hold of you either. If you need to let me know you're all right, I appreciate it. You know, just tell me you're okay. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. Let me know you're okay. Get this message from me. Thank you, Tom. Monday, 12:45 a.m. Monday, 12:58 a.m. Morning, my last message I'm waiting. I wish you'd call and let me know you're okay. I got the phone with you there. Call me. Bye. Monday, 7:19 a.m. Yeah, better. I know anyway. Well, you got me there, all right.
The horse is up right now, but I'll stop at 18:09. I'll close the rest of it. Did Tara ever call you back?
No.
And without telling me what anyone told you, did there come a time when you became aware that law enforcement was involved in this case?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of who told you that? I don't want to go into detail of what they said, but who was it that let you know law enforcement had been called?
Well, I called Miss Faye the next morning to see if she showed up for school,
They
and Ms. Faye said she had not shown up, and that Joe and a teacher were going to go over to the house and check the house for her. And I told her to go ahead and contact the local law enforcement agency and let them know she needed to file a missing person report, that, she wouldn't have missed school and not called in. So at that point in time, I knew it wasn't good.
What did you do, if anything, at that point?
I waited on Ms. Faye to call me back. She called me and told me that they had gone in the house and she wasn't in there.
Yes.
And at that point in time, I took off work, and I called the local GBI office, Gary Rothwell, which was at the SAC at the time, and told him what was going on, and didn't know if they had requested their assistance yet, but that, I felt that it needed their attention.
Okay. Did you actually come to Ocilla?
I did.
And did you wind up speaking with Gary Rothwell as well as other agents that day?
I did.
Were you forthright about the kind of relationship you had with Ms. Grinstead when you spoke with GBI agents?
I did.
Were you cooperative in the investigation?
I was.
Through the course of this investigation, essentially until February of 2017, did you consider yourself to be a person of interest by the GBI?
I think I was. I felt like I was being.
And do you know how many times you were questioned by the GBI?
No.
Do you recall if the GBI took any of your devices, such as your work computer or anything of that nature, for evidence?
I turned it over to them, my workstation at work, laptop, and cell phone.
And I want to direct your attention back to a date prior to what we've just heard, when Ms. Grinstead had gone missing. Do you recall a time where you were at Ms. Grinstead's residence and someone else came?
Yes.
And do you recall how long that was before she went missing that weekend?
No, ma'am.
Do you think it would have been more recent or further away in time? If you don't know, it's okay, but
I would say a couple months, maybe.
where were you when the person came to Ms. Grinstead's door that day?
I was coming back from Valdosta, dropping off evidence to the crime lab down there, and she had called me and we talked, and she asked me to come by her residence. So I got off the interstate and I went by her residence and walked in, started towards the kitchen, pulled the chair out at the kitchen table and sat down, and immediately, as soon as I sat down, somebody started banging on the door.
Okay. Did you go to the door?
No.
Did Tara go to the door?
She did.
And when Tara went to the door, could you hear what was going on outside?
Yes. Well, she looked out the window first to see who it was, and she said, "Oh my God." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "It's that crazy Anthony."
Okay. Prior to that date, had you ever heard of anybody named Anthony?
Didn't have a clue who he was.
And other than the things that she said to you about him that date, did you ever talk to her about him again?
No.
Were you able to hear anything that actually was said between the two of them outside?
He was screaming, "Please talk to me, please talk to me. Please come outside and talk to me." And he was like in a panic, like some emergency or something.
Do you have any personal knowledge as to whether or not Tara Grinstead was having a romantic relationship with Anthony Vickers?
I do not.
Did you ever actually speak with Mr. Vickers that day?
No. I came to the door, and he started seeing my presence seemed to agitate him. And he started, using profane language towards me and cussing. And Tara said, "Just go back in. It's not, not going to help anything." And I saw the local law enforcement pull up I don't know who called him. Somebody called him. He was out there screaming and hollering at her. And I said, well, you need to come back in because I don't know what this guy's problem is, but he seems out of control. I don't want you to get hurt. And she says, I got it. And they came up, and he lit right into them as soon as they came up. And I told her, I said, let me know if they need to talk to me. I can tell them what I witnessed.
Yes, sir. On that particular evening, did you give a statement to law enforcement?
They never came in. He was arrested, and they left.
Okay. Did you ever give a statement to law enforcement about that incident?
I did.
Was that before or after she went missing?
Before.
Okay. Did you ever have any further conversations with Ms. Grinstead about the person Anthony Vickers?
Oh yeah. I was curious what all that was about.
Okay.
You know.
Now, did you know of someone by the name of Marcus Harper?
I did.
And how did you know about Marcus Harper? Or what did you know about him?
I just knew it was an ex-boyfriend of Tara's that was in the military. That's basically it.
Okay. To your knowledge, at the time that she went missing, what was the status of their relationship?
I think they were broke up. I'm pretty sure they were.
Have you ever, are you aware of any incident that took place a few weeks before Tara was murdered in which she became emotional about Marcus?
She told me about an incident where he accused her of reading his emails.
Okay.
And she was distraught about it, and she really didn't elaborate a whole lot on it other than it scared her and she was real upset.
Through the course of this investigation, were you asked to provide a sample of your DNA?
I was.
And did you agree to provide a sample of your DNA?
I did.
Showing opposing counsel on Mark State's Exhibit 201. I'm going to show you a Mark State's Exhibit 201. Ask you to take a look at that for me, please. Do you recognize States 201?
I do.
And how do you recognize States 201?
It's a consent waiver to get saliva.
And is that a true and accurate copy of the consent waiver that you signed in this case?
Yes, it is.
Now, at this time, I will tender it over to States Exhibit 201.
All right, any objection on board action 201? Thank you, Mr. Merchant. That's submitted without objection. States 201.
May I publish that to the jury, Judge?
Yes.
Looking at States 201, the signature that we see here, whose signature is that?
That's my signature.
And do you recall, or does this indicate to us who actually collected your DNA sample that day?
Bill Botry with a GBI.
No, I was going to say, did you know Bill Baldry before this date?
I knew who he was.
Did you know any of the other agents or law enforcement who investigated this case?
Yes.
And looking at this particular waiver, can you tell us what was the nature of the investigation that was ongoing as of November of 2005?
Missing person.
Now, for our jurors who may not be familiar with how DNA samples are generally collected, in addition to having consented to having your DNA collected, have you ever collected DNA from persons in your job?
Yes.
And what is the method by which we normally collect DNA for testing?
It's a cotton swab, and we swab the mouth area, around the cheeks, tongue area.
And is that what occurred in this case when you gave your sample?
Yes.
Now, do you recall specifically I'm moving around, I apologize, but I want to go back to that Saturday evening. When you spoke with Tara, do you recall what time of day or night it was?
It was late because I had fallen asleep in the chair watching, I think it was the Alabama LSU game, I think it was, and I fell asleep. And we've been watching college football all day, and so I'm going to say 10 and 11-ish.
And when you spoke with Tara, was that on her cell phone or her home phone? Do you recall?
I want to say her cell phone, but I'm not 100%.
Do you recall when you spoke with Tara if at any point she indicated that she was not yet home that evening?
The understanding I got from her that night was that she was at home, and she said she was cold. It was cool.
Okay.
And she was at home.
What did that mean to you when she said she was cold or she was cool? Did you know what she meant by that?
She just said it was cool out and she was cold.
Okay. Prior to that last time that you spoke, do you know what Tara had been doing throughout that day?
She had a pageant that she did.
Okay.
She, I know she was doing some girls' hair pageant because I called and one of the little girls answered the phone.
Okay.
And she said, Tara's in the shower, she'll call you back as soon as she gets out. And Tara called me while she was at the pageant.
Do you recall if Tara ever indicated if she went by Troy Davis's house that evening for a barbecue or a cookout?
Yes.
And do you recall if you actually spoke with her while she was there?
Yes.
When Tara, and obviously we heard your messages, but did Tara ever tell you that she loved you?
Yes.
Would it be unusual for Tara to end a phone call with you to tell you that she loved you too?
Yeah.
That would be unusual or would not?
No, would not be unusual.